Hey guys, Azucho here. You might be wondering how to build and play Sigma, which is going to be fully usable starting tomorrow on Sunday. So there's a number of different ways to build and also play Sigma, even with the skill selection. Like, this setup is really good for countering people that go no tanks, or you can also use the other set of skills, which is really good for ignoring guard. More on this later. First, let's go on with how to build him. For Sigma, he does have this passive ability, which says if you have not attacked this turn, you gain Death Shadow, and everything about Sigma's kit revolves around Death Shadow. After taking action, his range is increased by 2 and mobility is increased by 1. So the most important part about this is really just having that increased range by 2. So this makes your 4 range abilities like Strong Wind Snipe and 3C have a range of 6. Oh, that's really good. After attacking though, you lose Death Shadow, and this means you can only attack like once every 2 turns, unless you bring this Ranger's Heart, which can allow you to act again and immediately gain Death Shadow. After this is lost, you take reduced physical damage. So because of this damage taken reduced, you want to have, of course, Last Rites. So you take a bunch more reduced physical damage after attacking. For weapons, you can go Extreme Magic Bow, though Sigma doesn't really need it, as long as he take one of the dual skills. Or the better weapon for Sigma would be Stinger, the Crystal Stinger, which allows him to ignore people with lower skill than him, ignore 10%, or was it 20% of their defense. Yeah, the Crystal Stinger is really strong, so that is his best in slot. You do need to have higher skill than your opponent, so you do need to slap on a bunch of skill just so you can ignore your opponent's defense. Of course, it's not going to do much against assassins and stuff, but still good against a bunch of other stuff that have lower skill. For Hat, you can use this special equipment. After taking action, there's a chance that Sigma will increase his attack, so you do not really need a faction buff if you just get lucky with this. If you're unlucky, then, well, that's unfortunate. For accessories, there are a bunch of options here as well, like Slayer's Emblem, which gives you flat 509 health. Having flat health is really good, just so it scales a lot better with your damage reduction like Last Rite and his talent. For Enchants, it's best that you go Breeds, because you can stack with the Death Shadow effect. So normally Sigma have a range of 3, 4 with Death... what's it, Death Shadow? Yes, Death Shadow. So 4 with Death Shadow, and then 6 with Breeze. That means you can move 6 blocks, attack somebody either from 5 or 6 blocks away, depending on which skill you bring. And that's really good. Alternatively, you can use Rough Seas instead of Breeze if you want to cut up high defense targets like tanks. Like Landius, Hilda, Juggler, they have really high defense, so if you have even more attack, you can do even more damage to them. For accessories, if you don't want to use the Slayer's Emblem, you can also go with Twilight Star, which can help you break Last Rite effects, or any sort of full health bonuses. Alternatively, there is the option of going Divine Boots. Of course, you'd lose a lot of attack doing this, but you get +1 range. And if you're facing squishy mages, they're gonna die regardless. Well, that's the equipment build. For class builds, just go the standard, attack, health, defense or magic defense, slap on some skill. Slap on some skill here as well. Attack, crit damage, health, kind of standard here. Now, Sigma does have a lot of really interesting soldier options here. One of them will be Cyborg Vessel, which is still good, because you can cut up any sort of Lancers. Say if you have like a Elwyn on Unicorns, and your opponent brings Lancers to counter, you can bring Cyborg Vessels on Sigma, and have all of that covered. Alternatively, you can use Shinobis, which at max rank is going to do 20% of enemy units' max health. So this is really good against stuff like Redeemers, or anyone that revives with 20% of their health after combat, like Olandius, or anyone with a revive effect. So that's going to be really good if you want to take out 2 lives with Shinobis. And like before mentioned, this set is really strong against Tankless. What you can do here is on turn 1, activate 3C Ranger's Eye, mark somebody. This turns into a 6 or 4 range skill, just like Strong Wind Snipe, which you can attack 6 blocks away. Now why I like this setup is so you can use either 3C or Strong Wind Snipe on turn 2, and on turn 3, you're going to lose the Death Shadow buff, which means you're going to not have this increased range and nobility anymore. But then you can act again with Ranger's Heart, get this effect again, and attack at 6 range. So on turn 1, you're kind of forced to use this, but it's okay. Or alternatively, you can teleport Sigma with like Tensei Jessica, use Ranger's Heart, immediately Strong Wind Snipe if you like. But just doing this turn 1 means you have 2 abilities that you can use on turn 2, then you can Ranger's Heart, use the other ability on turn 3. So you can do a lot of really quick attacks with Sigma against tankless units. This does not ignore guard though, so you have to be careful, and to make this work you'll have to use the Cyborg Vessels, which attacks with you. Now the other build actually requires Sigma's special abilities here. After unlocking this on Sunday, you'll have more health. This really good passive increases his passive skill, which makes the Crystal Stinger even better. And it says when attacking and you have the Death Shadow effect, assassin soldiers can launch range attack along with a hero in battle. And if you attack somebody within 3 range, this attack ignores guard. So if you just attack normally, you can ignore guard once every 2 turns, which is quite amazing, but it does mean that you have to not attack just so you can get the Death Shadow buff again. Combine that with Shadow Duel, which teleports Sigma to somewhere within 1 block of an enemy. You can cast this 5 blocks away, and it'll ignore guard because after teleporting, you're within that 3 block range. So after using the Shadow Duel, teleport right next to your opponent, and before entering combat, you ignore melee damage penalty, so you don't need the Extreme Magic Bowl. Gain some buffs, and if you have the Death Shadow effect active, only the soldiers, only the heroes, do damage to each other. And after battle, you restore 50% of health, and you increase your counter attack damage by 50%. And then some other effects, which is mostly irrelevant. This is really strong skill for taking out some high defense targets like Juggler or even tanks. So anyone that gets hit by Shadow Duel and they're marked is probably dead, assuming you have Shadow Stinger. But this is really good if you want to just have Sigma as an assassin. If your opponent plays tanks, you can use him to ignore guard once every 2 turns. And you don't even need the skill to make that ignore guard happen. If you want to use a skill and ignore guard, of course you have to use the second effect of 3C within 3 blocks. But it's okay, since unlike Strong Wind Snipe, which requires you to be a lot farther from your opponent, 3C just deals flat 1.5 times battle damage. So it's gonna do really good even attacking at 3 range. That's going to mostly kill anyone that Sigma hits too. And after unlocking Sigma's special effects here, best troop is going to be this Faceless one. Assassin Soldiers, when maxed out before in-turn combat, increases the enemy's chance to be critically hit by up to 15%, which is also really amazing, just so Sigma can crit and deal even more damage, which is why we're gonna go pretty much full offensive here, with skill, crit chance, crit damage, more attack, yeah, all the good stuff. Alright, that's all for now. Hope you have fun with Sigma tomorrow. I'll see you guys next time.